Hello, everyone. And my name is Andy Dvoretsky. And today on the AgileLAB webinar, we are discussing the implementation roadmap of the Scaled Agile framework. So first, let's quickly refresh our memory. What is the Scaled Agile framework? In our organizations nowadays, we have grown a pretty large and substantial hierarchy, which is actually good and which leads to some safety and stability. But what practice says and shows that time to time under this hierarchy, we lost the focus on the end customer. And actually the end customer, is the only one who can fire everyone in the company. So what Agile frameworks in general and the Scaled Agile framework in particular says that let's try not ruining the existing hierarchy, build a virtual structure on top of that hierarchy, a virtual structure of teams which collaborate effectively in Agile manner and which are focused on the actual value delivery on the for the customer. And the Scaled Agile framework is actually a set of tools and practices. Some of them are new and invented purely by SAFe. Some of them are like reutilized from previous experience from Scrum, XP, Kanban, like different DevOps practices and tools, Agile coaching practices, change management, and so on and so forth. A set of practices, which is like a framework helping us to achieve this goal, helping us to build the effective virtual structure focused on the value delivery to the customer. The full picture of Scaled Agile framework is like pretty much complicated and contains lots and lots and lots of these tools and practices. You can access this full safe picture via scaledagileparamework.com. All these like practices and elements of the framework are clickable, and you can dive deeper into the proper page and learn about this or that element. And usually this is the default approach to get acquainted with SAFe. But today we'll try like another approach to get acquainted, because instead of like studying this big picture, we will discuss step by step, how do we as Agile coaches and consultants of AgileLAB implement the Scaled Agile framework in organizations? What do we do step by step? And we will touch the base like on the most important parts of the framework, and we will cover the Scaled Agile framework for beginners from a different angle. So definitely all the stakeholders of organizations making decision to go for like Scaled Agile framework ask the same question: is there like a roadmap? Because they want some like clearance and transparency how exactly the organization is going to be changed. I would say that we must not forget that we must stay still in Agile state of mind while doing Agile. And we cannot say that like one size fits all organizations and we can do all the same sequence of steps with all the organizations to successfully implement Scaled Agile framework. But at the same time, yes, the answer on the most popular question exists. Scaled Agile framework created and pre-populated the roadmap of implementation, which is like more or less universal and which is default when we start our discussion of transformation with different organizations. We must tailor it. We must stay in Agile state of mind. Just cannot mechanistically implement this, but this is a good thing to have, and this is a good start. And today we are discussing this roadmap step by step. Feel free to ask your questions in the special question and answer functionality here. So The first step in this roadmap is actually a tipping point, making decision that we as organization go this direction, go scale digital framework. What's needed in this step? So first of all, definitely to make a decision, we have kind of like chicken and egg question, right? To make a decision about switching to direction and about implementing scaled agile framework, you need some knowledge about the framework. And to resolve this chicken and egg problem, we have a Safe Executive Workshop, which actually is the very condensed body of knowledge for executives about the scaled digital framework, which is enough to make the decision. What else on this step? We need to create a sense of urgency, right? So, you know, like transformations fail if we just proclaim some like decision, but our people don't feel the necessity of changing, right? So if they don't have reason to change, our transformation will like most likely fail, right? So what we need to do is like to show the light in the end of the tunnel and, sorry, but set the other end of the tunnel on fire so that everyone has the urgency to move in the new direction. And the last but not the least here, the goal setting, or let's say like objectives and key results of our desired transformation. These OKRs are not like explicitly visualized on the roadmap, but they are mentioned in other slides and other pages of Scaled Agile Framework website. And they say, and we agree with them, that we can treat agile transformation as a product, right? And we can apply the OKRs approach to this product. So here, before we begin, it's a good idea to discuss and define what's the target state, how are we going to measure success, how are we going to assess actually whether we are moving in the right direction. So this is a pretty important thing to be done at this stage. To do that, we have different kinds of goal setting workshops, like we have coalition of executives, decision makers, and usually we ask questions like where we are now as an organization, what is the desired target state. We try to picturize what they say, like building some flip charts or something, visual forms, doing like different kind of gap analysis. And later, we try all together with them formulate objectives and key results for our transformation. We also don't forget about this sense of urgency I just mentioned and try to formulate the answer on the question, why now? Why it is important to change now for our organization? And with help of this goal setting workshop, we also like align expectations of different stakeholders and representatives of different parts of organization. Then when decision is made and we say from the top of organization that we are ready to go safe, the next few steps are dedicated to building of like guiding coalition of our upcoming transformation. These steps are to answer the question, who will change the organization in persons, right? So who are those internal and external change agents? And for that also we need SPCs, safe practice consultants. We can either train SPCs within the organization or invite external ones, like as we usually do like in AgileLAB, right? So we act as external SPCs for organizations being transformed. We build the foundation of Lean Agile Center of Excellence at this step. The very foundation, definitely it will grow later. We will add a lot of people and new practices, but we already need to establish a place so that the new obtained knowledge of about Agile and about safe stays within the organization and doesn't leave with external SPCs when we finish, right? And at the same point of time, we also train executives, managers, and leaders And we try to create a safe environment for them so that they are eager to change and they are happy to change, and they have a vision of their own and good place in the new world, right? After we created this guiding coalition, the next important step here is to actually organize around value. Let's discuss it in a little bit more detail. So this is one of SAFE principles, organize around value. And this is exactly what I mentioned on the first slide when we discussed why we do actually implement SAFE, right? So the main idea is to build the network on top of the hierarchy. And now in SAFE, we have a value stream and agile release trains in the identification workshop, which helps us to decide how exactly are we going to build this network in our organization on top of already existing hierarchy. I will try to briefly explain the mental model, the concept of value streams here. This is essential for understanding of further steps. So the value stream is a model, sequence of steps, picturizing how we actually deliver value in our organization. There are two types of value streams, operational streams and development streams. Let's start with like operational value stream. We have some trigger of some behavior, sequence of steps, and in the end, we have value, satisfied customer, and like most often money received. So for example, if we have a barber shop for dogs or cats, right? So we have a sequence of steps to engage with the customer, promote our service, to book the appointment, to actually perform the service, and to make the haircut, grooming service for the pet. And we have a payment step, and also we have a step where our happy customers share the information about the service and their social networks with other customers to build a new funnel for us, right? This is the operational stream, how our business operates and how we earn money. We also can map systems which enable these steps to operate, right? They may be like IT systems, maybe physical systems, maybe human systems, like whatever. So in our case, with pet barbershop, we may have like physical channels distributing live flats somewhere near the underground stations, or like online channels in social medias and our own application and so on and so forth. We will definitely have our system within the organization to train and coach our like groomers or barbers, like pet barbers. We will have a booking system, we will have payment system, and so on and so forth. And those systems are needed to like help our operational value stream to actually operate. And the interesting thing happens next. We may have an assumption that if we improve this or that system, if we invest into this or that system, we may later have a good return on investment, and our operational value stream may operate even better and generate even more value. And here, the development value streams come to the place, right? So we may launch another value stream, which doesn't like attract actual customers and create revenue for us, but which improves our system. For example, our mobile application, right? Or our payment system or something. And this is a very important and fundamental and basic mental model. So what we try to do in our complex organizations, we try to map and visualize those value streams, the operational ones, the development ones, if we already have them, or we build assumptions what exactly we need to improve, and we try to launch the new development streams. On top of the value streams identified, we try to organize agile release trains. Agile release trains are exactly those mentioned virtual structures. Agile Release Train is a virtual structure of 5 to 12 teams, like 50 to 125 persons, cross departments, cross functional, cross hierarchical, organized around values. So we try to map people needed to in our development value streams so that they can actually implement uninterrupted flow of value. So we invite people of different towers of silos of information, and we build them into virtual, like small cross-functional teams, all together combined, called Agile Release Train. Agile Release Train is like team of teams organized around the flow of value, around the development value stream. I hope it's clear. And when we had this identification workshop and we identified a set of value streams and set of Agile Release Trains, we need to create a plan how actually we are going to launch them, in which sequence are we going to launch them. So from previous step, we have a vision of target structure. And just to mention, there is no single correct answer. How exactly are we going to cover our organization with value streams and Agile Release Trains? We just hypothesize, we build hypotheses, and then we evaluate them and reassess them, right? We just need to start at least with some vision. So we somehow try to cover our organization with like a portfolio of Agile Release Trains first. And we create a launch plan. So we start with this train, then we launch the next one, and so on and so forth. Important mention here is that like 2 pilot Agile Release Trains is better than 1, because when we face the natural resistance within the organization, and when like people try to fail our transformation and say that doesn't work, it's a very good thing to have competing like Agile Release Train as a benchmark, showing us that no, like for the same organization, like for the neighboring department that works, we have this like working example and so on and so forth. So usually we are piloting with no less than 2 Agile Release Trains. So having a big boom like and covering the entire organization in one run is too risky and too difficult and too expensive. But like launching just 1 Agile Release Train is not always enough. So we try to pilot at least 2 from the very beginning. We created the implementation plan and the next steps. So we actually need to launch an Agile Release Train or a few of them. And by launch, actually, SAFE means to prepare for the first PI planning and to conduct these PI planning. The PI planning actually formerly was known as program increment planning in SAFE. Starting version 6, which was published like less than a month ago, they say that PI abbreviation stays for planning interval, and it's a little bit of cheesy wordplay that like PI planning then becomes planning interval planning. Anyway, we're aiming to prepare for that. To prepare for that, we do the following. We train Agile Release Train stakeholders, right? The local ones, because they will have to collaborate with the Agile Release Train in a new way. If they want to bring some work, to invest something into the Agile Release Train, to bring some new requirements and so on and so forth, right? They work differently. So we need to educate them. Also, we need to train and educate the product management and architects, because they will have to prepare an input for the PI planning. They will have to create a backlog, at least. And this is actually our third point. So at this phase, we consolidate, prioritize, and prepare the backlog. Usually, this is like the most collaborative activity on the Agile Release Train level. So we have like some stakeholders, we have technical people, we have product people, and we try to establish process between them, align them, and we need to agree how are we going actually to formalize items of our backlog? How will we compare different types of work or types of work from different departments, from different stakeholders, requests from different like parts of organization? We learn how to use WSGF, this approach from Scaled Agile framework, to prioritize items, comparing their cost of delay to their like job size, right? So we do this work a series of ongoing workshops, ongoing activities. And the important thing here also is just to cut the tail, right? So what I mean by that, when we start Agile transformation, there usually is a lot of work already in progress. Our teams are busy with building things, and usually they are overloaded, right? And it's very important that we discuss the decision with the stakeholders, how exactly at one single moment of time, we're going to say, stop. We are stop doing what was in progress already right now. And from this moment of time, we just apply the new approach to planning. We just pick things from the backlog using our PI planning procedure and so on and so forth. And all the old work needs to undergo the same procedure and the same reprioritization with WSGF. If we don't do that, unfortunately, we have a very high risk to run into the wall, because we will play Scaled Agile framework on our PI plannings and further like meetings, rituals, and procedure. But at the same time, in the dark, in the shadow, teams will have to do some other like conflicting work. And unfortunately, there is a great chance to fail on this thing. So we cut the tail, and at the very last responsible moment, we train the teams themselves. We definitely need to train stakeholders and product management and architects upfront so that they can prepare for the PI planning. But for teams, including Scrum Master roles, like it's enough just to have a training about Scaled Agile framework for them like a day or 2 days ahead of the initial PI planning. And with this being said, we just covered the preparatory phase, and we are ready to face our first ever PI planning interval planning, program increment planning. SAFe used to say that this is the most important piece of magic in the framework, in the entire framework. So this box, blue box, converts the input into the output. The input is vision, the business vision, technical vision, product vision, and the backlog, which we just prepared. With the series of events, which will be discussed pretty soon on the next slide, we transform this input into the output, into feasible plan, how all the teams on the Agile release train will collaborate to deliver these requested features, and formulated objectives. Every team has their PI objectives formulated in business language, like business oriented, and we all together then also have the like PI objectives committed. So how let's first quickly review these artifacts. So the plan is visualized at the dependency board as a PI board here. It's pretty straightforward on the first glance. So in columns, we have our 2-week iterations. We have our cadence, how we work as a teams all together. In rows, we have our teams, the list of teams. And during the process of time, the progress of the PI planning, we ask teams to visualize the work. They pick items from the backlog they were presented, decompose them, estimate them, do their own magic. And as a result, we intend them to have features mapped. When are they going to deliver this or that feature? And blocking dependencies visualized if they have any like collaboration or input needed from another team, and if they cannot deliver this or that feature until another team like have done their work. This is the first and the most important output from the PI planning. And the second one stands for the objectives formulated. I've just mentioned that all the teams and we all together as a program also formulate the objectives, the goals of this iteration, of this increment on business-oriented language. To do that, we have 2 days of activities, usually in physical environment. In virtual disturbed environment, we may have more but shorter sessions, right? So the typical agenda is that we start from business context presentation. We invite the top level guys and ask them to tell everyone in attendance, all the Agile release train, all the team members, what's happening right now with our business, what competitors are doing, which problems do we face on the market, and how are we going to reflect on that, right? So then we call the product guys and ask them for solution vision. We ask them to present from just business context we just learned, how exactly are we going to reflect that in our solution, in our product. This is about the roadmap of features, the list of features, the vision of features, like some maybe non-functional requirements as well. And later we invite architects and technical guys and ask them to present the technical vision. So how exactly they are going to bring this to life, like high-level design documents, some non-functional requirements, some new development practices like DevOps approaches, something like that. After the context is set up, the process guide, the facilitator, like the coach or the release train engineer, safe terms, explains the planning context to all the teams, are explaining who does what, how exactly team breakouts work, and we have a teamwork session after the lunch. So teams working separately in their breakout rooms on physical space around their tables, take items from the backlog they were just presented, decompose them, estimate them, try to plan them fitting into their 2-week iterations or like whatever duration iterations you work in your organization. They take into consideration their actual capacity, they raise questions back to business stakeholders, to product guys, to technical guys. And the most important thing, that if they identify any dependencies with neighboring teams or even with external arts or external organization or even external organizations, they have to map those dependencies on the board, and they have to physically go to the team they have collaboration with and discuss this and map this all together. And after that, we can have a draft plan review. So our teams present what they have by the end of day 1. And at this point of time, teams are free. And management reviews this draft plan again and tries to understand why it's like absolutely not the thing we expected to have. So they try to analyze the draft plan and try to make decisions, make some like adjustments. So maybe we need scope prioritization. Maybe we need some managerial decision. Maybe we need to change our non-functional requirements, allocate additional budget. Maybe we need to add like more people to the teams, more time, whatever, right? So in this agenda, it stays like for an hour, but time to time, it takes the entire night for management to do that work. But anyway, by the end of day 2, they are ready to present the planning adjustments again to everyone in attendance, to the entire Agile release train. And after that, we have the second round of team breakouts, where teams continue identifying dependencies, planning work, trying to formulate the drafts of their objectives for the PI. And after that, we have final plan review. We also assess risks which were identified by teams as like resolved, owned, accepted, or mitigated. And after that, we have a confidence score, like Feast of 5, for every team member, how sure we are that the plan is feasible and we can bring it to life by the end of the iteration. And we make a decision whether we need a plan rework or we are all set. So this is the PI planning we are here by the moment at our implementation roadmap. What's next? So definitely we've planned something. We mapped some activities, and definitely we need to deliver that. We need to deliver what we committed to, what we planned. The next phase in the implementation roadmap states actually the train the execution. So here we need to establish a process of an actual value delivery. We need to pay a lot of attention to DevOps culture and practices, but not limited to that. So at this moment of time, we set the communication framework and all the necessary set of events and meetings needed to facilitate the process of regular, ongoing, uninterrupted value delivery within our Agile release train. And after a fixed set of iterations, when we finish our PI, we also have the important things such as like inspect and adapt iteration. And the most important things within that is like PI system demo, actually have demonstrated all results of the program increment are integrated. We do quantitative and qualitative measurement of what we just implemented, and we have retrospective analysis and problem solving workshop before we have the next large iteration. Okay, we've trained the execution within an Agile release train. What's next? It sounds straightforward. So we need to scale the success, right? So we need to scale to another value streams and Agile release trains. We establish or like improve the portfolio level management, because honestly, it was on the previous steps pretty much difficult to establish a good portfolio flow, as we just had one Agile release train, or like a few of them. But we need more like physically launched Agile release trains to properly implement portfolio management practices and do all the important things on the portfolio level, like participatory budgeting workshops, where we actually redistribute and allocate budgets between different strategic initiatives and do different Agile release trains and so on. And with this being said, we reach the final stage of the Agile scaled Agile framework implementation roadmap, which stands for acceleration and simulation of our success. That's it for the roadmap. And before we finish today's webinar, just a few extra recommendations from AgileLAB, from our experience. The first thing, the roadmap itself looks pretty straightforward. We prepare for our launch, we train teams, we launch the Agile release train. But in real life, usually it's not so easy. And usually we have a few iterations to properly launch the Agile release train, right? So like at least few cycles of program increment planning together with them. So we do this like crawl, walk, run, fly approach. For the first iteration, we may like slightly simplify this or that, slightly simplify the canvases for the features, slightly like simplify the approach to prioritization. Maybe we like skip some like this or that details, but then we reiterate and learn how to do it better and better. At the same time, on the other hand, we should remember these levels of mastery, right? So we need first to follow the rule and understand how exactly this or that practice work and why it's here in the Scaled Agile framework set of practices and tools. Only after that, we're going to break the rule and experiment and try something new. And only after that, we can invent our own rule. So the quick way to fail for lots of organization actually is to skip the first step and not to learn and not to do the safe by the book and starting tailoring framework without trying it. Again, like it's a quick way to fail. So remember that and start doing things by the book first. And the last I want to mention is that, and it's doesn't contradict to what like SAFe actually says and encourages us. During the entire transformation, we need to maintain the state of awareness, right? And we need everyone in the perimeter of transformation to know where these or that questions or concerns may be shared. So we try to create safe environment for awareness and for like information sharing with set of communities of practice in the perimeter of transformation, and events such as like Link Office, which is like structured discussion without preliminary defined agenda, where everyone in the perimeter of organization of the transformation can safely share their concerns, ask their questions about what's happening, and like receive their answers. This is also the important key to success. And we are done with SAFe implementation roadmap for today. Thank you for your presence, and see you next time.